Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Targeting Winners, the college football betting podcast. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcast services. Today, we're talking about America's Conference, the MAC, everyone's favorite conference. Darren, upstate New York, how you doing?
We finally broke 60 degrees today for late May, so very excited after like a week's worth of rain. But yeah, our favorite conference probably of them all. Any conference that gives us Tuesday and Wednesday football in a random November for like 20 plus years. Yeah, we love MAC. I see Pete and I have our It's MAC time greetings on there. We're thinking alike again. We're loving us some MAC.
And Pete, how's life up there in the northern part of MAC country?
It is well. I'm surrounded by a bunch of MAC schools up here. All the directional Michigan teams are in here, so we'll have that discussion. Happy post-Memorial Day. We're getting closer to football. You can start to smell it a little bit, or at least head in the right direction here, so I'm getting excited.
Oh, yeah. So we got the MAC. We got, some new faces, some teams, or one team leaving, a new team coming in. Darren, why don't you bring us through some news with the MAC over the past few weeks?
Yeah, so last year we remembered that they eliminated their divisions. They're still sticking with that. However, a 13th team, a former member in UMass, is back again. So the MAC will be a 13-team conference for 2025. And then following 2025, Tim, you had mentioned this to me earlier in the week, and none of us remembered it, so good on you. Northern Illinois accepted a bid to the Mountain West, so this will be their last year in the MAC. And 2026, they'll be a 12-team conference again, unless something else changes, but 13 teams for this year. Why are there 15 teams on that graphic? Am I blind? Can I not count?
There seem to be 15 teams on there.
I was going to say, Eastern Kentucky is not in there anymore, and neither is Marshall.
Marshall's definitely not in here.
No, they are not.
Tim's got himself a 2005 MAC conference mega.
I just noticed that myself. Moving on. Let's go to...
Are you trying to predict something here? Is Marshall coming to the MAC?
Do you know realignment things that we are not aware of here?
I guess so. I must have been in the academic program at Akron. So we'll get into that later on. Right now we're looking for some winning bets from this conference. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. So boys, Kent State. The win total projection is 1.5. What are you guys thinking?
I'll take the first swing at this one. I don't. I'm trying to think of something positive to say. Coaches are in transition. Offense was pitiful. Defense was porous. I don't know who they're beating. They're 1-23 of late, so it's not a positive thing at all. Maybe there's a future. I don't know, but there's nothing in the present to even talk about. So we'll save the future discussion to next year when maybe they do something positive. I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed that DraftKings and FanDuel have that 1.5 that Tim mentioned. Both sites have it juiced to the over. But yeah, I bet Pete, you touched on a bunch of things that went wrong with them over the last one or two seasons. Throw in 18% on third downs. Their leading running back is gone. Their O-line returns one starter. They could potentially start a transfer quarterback from Fordham, which should give you some kind of idea how things are. They had 18 touchdowns receptions last year. 16 of them came from two guys. They're both gone. The defense was last in most major categories, or towards the bottom anyway. Defensively, only 18 sacks and 4 picks. Guy who led the team with 6 sacks. He's on Kentucky now. Yeah, if I'm looking at that juice to the over, I mean, they got a home game against Merrimack. I'm guessing Vegas, they're going to take that one. And then possibly the home game against UMass. I don't see anything else on there where another win is a possibility. They do have themselves set up for some nice paydays, though. If you take a look at their non-conference schedule, they go to Texas Tech, Florida State, and Oklahoma. So they should at least be bringing some money into the program. But I don't know, man. I don't know how they get to 2. There's just a lot that's changing there. And I don't know. I can't touch it, man. There is nothing worse than rooting for bad teams to do good things, and I can't. I could just see a scenario where they beat Merrimack, and then like if I bet the over, I am sweating the UMass game like no other game I've ever sweat. And if I ever get to the point where I'm sweating UMass at Kent State, can't do it. Not touching this team at all. Doesn't look good.
Well, I'm actually leaning the over there. I think they can win those two games. Not putting in a bet yet, and while I'm at it, let's try that. How's that look? New picture.
New picture.
Yeah. All right. Hey, got to correct the errors here.
At least there's not 15 teams on this picture. This is
the thing that really sucks about it. Yeah, it's a good picture. It's like how long? It wasn't that long ago when Kent State was like running a play every 8.5 seconds and scoring 50 points a game. And I noticed this last year, and the trend continued into this year. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it just seems with the whole NIL and portal thing, anybody worth a damn on any of these programs seems to be going to Power 4 schools. I mean, so many of these teams have just been stripped of their talent, and now they're bringing in, Power 4 guys who never played at their Power 4 schools, so you can't really get a read on them because you've got no stats to go by. It's just, I feel bad for these conferences because I think they're just getting screwed like every year, but it looked to me anyway, like in the MAC, it's really, really bad. So a lot of these teams are going to suffer for a while.
That there is just a topic for a show that we could do at some point, because that is, and we talked about it our very first conference show this year, where it's really difficult to go through some of these conferences when they're just getting all their best players just stripped. And you're getting a bunch of people coming in that you have no idea who they are, never done anything. So it's really hard to get a read until we see them on the field. And that's challenging this early on. But it's going to hurt these conferences. We talked about it earlier. These other conferences are going to suffer. The MAC is a fun conference, and it has been for a long time. I'm afraid we're just going to see a continual degradation of the talent in the field of the MAC because they're all getting stripped out by these other schools. So it is something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, I watched the MAC for 13-10. I want to see 13-10 6 minutes into the first quarter. Right. That's the MAC I know and love.
Yeah, I was listening to some show on the radio in the car, and they were saying there was over like 1,200 transfers or something this past year. It's just, it's incredible. They got to do something about that. But anyway, moving on, we got Ball State next up. Another powerhouse. Pete, Darren, what you guys think of Ball State? Exactly.
All right. Well, I'll just go first, as Pete went first last time. Listen, the thing that frustrates me about Ball State is they had like a somewhat decent quarterback 2 years ago, and then they decided to move him to defensive back. Now the word is they're going to try and have him play at quarterback again, like he did in 2023. But yeah, not to sound like a broken record here, but top 2 running backs gone, 1 offensive line starter coming back, top 5 receivers all gone. I don't know who this guy's going to throw to, and it wasn't like he was the most accurate passer in the world to start with. As bad as they were offensively, they were worse defensively, second to last in the MAC in both points and yards. Top 2 tacklers are gone. Secondary, at least they got a few returning guys there, but just tons of his experience in the front 7. I see this 3.5 win total. I don't think they get there. I'm looking at a 3-win team here, just an inconsistent quarterback who hasn't quarterbacked in 2 years. Outside of Akron and Kent State at home, I don't even know if they can beat Akron, man. I got a feeling Akron's going to be grumpy, but we'll get into that shortly. But I don't like this team for this year, man. Under 3.5 is where I would lean, but no official play for me.
Yeah, I mean, that quarterback discussion goes back to what we just talked about, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they can't even recruit a viable quarterback, it would seem. So you're taking somebody who went to the defensive side and trying to revitalize them. Heck, right, new coach, trying to do something to spark the team and I guess a little bit of continuity, at least in the clubhouse, quote unquote. But yeah, I don't see how that goes good. I mean, I just don't know how that's really viable. So that's going to be an issue. There's just so many issues here. The offense has been not very good defensively, has not been good either. I don't see a lot here. It'll be interesting to see how he plays, playing quarterback again, if he wins the job, assuming he will. But I in a quote unquote a major school, right? In a conference, I just don't know how this happens. So, yeah to me, he
didn't even play that much at defensive back, so I don't really know what they were saving him for. Like they wanted to move him, but he didn't accumulate too many defensive stats. So, I don't know what the deal is with him. Apparently, he could run somewhat decent from what I remember from a couple years ago, but he's got nobody to throw to and nobody to hand the ball off. So maybe they take that. Yeah, maybe he becomes a dual threat guy and they get to 4 wins. But
run him right, run him left, and see what happens. Right? I don't know.
Well, Ball State's most famous alumnus is Parlay Paul's dad, so we have that. They have that going for him as far as that goes.
Does he have any eligibility left? I mean, they may want him.
They may want him there. We're going to move on to the newcomers. UMass. Meet the new boss. Well, meet the new team. What you guys got?
Well, not a lot. They're new, right? It's we talked about it when
I'm leaning under already just because it's a brand new conference. But
when a team comes to a conference the first year, it's really hard to tell what they're going to do because each conference generally has an identity. Not that I think that's the same as it used to be, because it seems with the transfer portal and all this stuff that these conferences are losing their identity a bit. We were talking about, the MAC back in the day scoring like crazy and being fun. I'm not sure that identity exists anymore, but coming into a conference, I'm not sure you're likely structured to be ready to play in that conference. We see it time and time again with teams that were, decent where they were, that they come into a conference and they're just not structured for it. Either they're, too soft or too slow or whatever the case may be. So UMass is going to have to figure this out. It's going to take them at least a year or two to figure that out. So I don't expect much of them this year, other than it'll be interesting to see what happens and how they actually perform in this conference.
Darren?
Yeah, I mean, there's at least a positive or two I see here. I mean, they've got 4 people currently competing for the QB1 job. I believe Brandon Rose, who was at Utah for a while and was one of the 9 quarterbacks who played when Cam Rising was not healthy. So he's got a little bit of experience. All 5 of their stars on the O-line are returning. So at least that's something. If they can generate any kind of offense, they only average 22 points a game. Defensively is where I see a lot of problems. I mean, they gave up 35 points a game last year. Only 28% of their production is returning on that side of the ball. They did add 12 defenders in the portal. So whether that helps, I mean, it can't hurt as bad as they were. The schedule's not awful. This is one where FanDuel's got them at 3.5 juice to the over. DraftKings has 4.5 juice to the under. So if you have a thought either way, definitely shop around here. But I mean, their road conference games, they go to Kent State, they go to Akron, they go to Central Michigan. So I mean, if they can get any kind of offense together or any kind of defense for that matter, a couple of those games might be winnable.
Sure.
They got some non-conference games. They have Temple and Bryant at home. I mean, those are certainly both winnable, I guess. But no confidence either way, even with 5 offensive line. Like, who are you blocking for? Like, we don't even know. Yeah, until I see that. And I believe Temple is that first game. If that's on TV, I don't see myself watching it. But it's interesting. I mean, if they're joining a conference, they must think they're good enough to do something.
Yeah.
I was listening to a UMass alum who says there's 6 wins on the schedule. No.
What's the most wrong you've ever been?
I just can't. I mean, no. I don't have a thought either way. But again, if you do have a thought on that win total, shop around because there are some different numbers out there.
You guys thought I was a homer for Florida State.
You are.
6 wins on. Well, not as bad to say there's 6 wins on UMass's schedule, but Jesus.
That's it right there under your picture. FSU homer.
But I'm not that bad as the UMass guys. I mean, geez.
That's fair.
Fair. Thanks. At least give me that much. Akron. So, Darren, what are the odds of Akron winning the MAC title this year?
Well, they are slim and or none. No sense shopping around because odds for Akron to win the MAC have been taken down.
Really?
Yes. Pete, you want to get into that? Because explain to people why they can't bet Akron.
Try to do it without bashing the state of Ohio if you could.
I don't bash the entire state. It's just those Buckeye people. But anyway, so there's something called the academic progress rate, which is tracked by the NCAA each year, which basically is assessing the academic standards of the university and how students are performing, et cetera, in the classroom. Right at the end of the day, there is a minimum bar that is set by the NCAA in order to be eligible to participate in. Well, they can participate in conference play, but they cannot win a conference or do anything else really if they don't meet that minimum bar. And I believe, and this is something I don't know, Darren, but you mentioned it. I think it's a rolling 3 years or 4 years or something.
I believe it's a rolling 4-year score, and if 1 year they come in below that 930, the first step is to cut some practices, and then the punishment just gets a little more severe from there.
Yep. So Akron has been a bit on the hook for being rather low on these ratings for the past couple of years, and well, unfortunately for them, they met the criteria this year to not be that's a double negative, but to not be eligible to win the conference, and so they have been removed from eligibility to participate. Well, they can participate, but they cannot win this conference. So it's something that honestly, we talked about it last video a little bit. Something new to me. So I'm going to do some analysis on this as we go forward and just take a look at some other trends and such, because Akron, semi-inconsequential. It doesn't really bother me that much. I really don't care that much. But there are some other schools that are kind of low, right, in these rankings right now, which is concerning, right? Because you could see, a semi-major program have an issue with this in the future. So it's something that I think we do need to look at and talk about. So just kind of pin that. We'll talk about that at some point in the near future. I might do a short on it or something, but I think it's something we need to talk about because it is something that can be quite consequential for, especially in a major conference if it happened. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
I also believe. Oh, I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
I just thought of it. I think there's a way around that. So it says they can't win the conference title, but they could probably be in the playoff.
Well, they're ineligible for a bowl game, so if they're ineligible for bowl games as well. So,
right, but I'm saying if it gets to be like a school, like
well,
Clemson
for this, the chances of the MAC being the Group of 5 representative are probably very slim at best. This is most likely Group of 5 conference not to send somebody to the playoff.
Yes.
But yeah, even at that point.
But if it's like an SEC school or a Big Ten school or something like that, where they don't have the rate, they can't win the conference, but they'll still put them in the playoff. I think that's their loophole. Well, they didn't win the conference; they're ineligible, but we can vote them into the playoffs.
Well, like Pete had said, there's a couple of playoff teams from last year that are in the bottom 10 to 15. So yeah, it's a possibility. I believe Penn State and Oregon are down there in like the 940s.
For how many years?
I don't know, but they were just over it from like 2022 and on. So they would really have to hit the skids academically to have that 4-year rolling average go below. But yeah, you think of a school like Penn State and Oregon, you would think those coaches, part of the reason they're getting paid those contracts that they're getting paid is to make sure those kids are going to class.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it is a little shocking to see those two schools like in the ranked below 120 in that rate. But yeah, looking at Akron, because we can still talk about their win total. Sure. And again, the whole mental side of this. We talked about this when Arizona State got put on some kind of Animal House double secret probation or whatever it was when Herm Edwards destroyed that program. They go out and win the Big 12. So, granted, they had a lot of talent on that team. But if you're Akron and you're not going to a bowl game and you're not playing for the MAC title, should you even qualify, what's your mindset? Are you like, well, screw this, the season is lost? Or are you going to just play balls to the wall every game and try and mess up everybody's season every time you take the field? And the one good thing, they have a somewhat experienced quarterback coming back. And we're not going to say that for a lot of teams here. Ben Finley is back, threw for over 2,600 yards and 16 TDs. So it's already, that's a plus over any of the other 3 teams we've talked about so far. Defensively, they took a lot of hits. So, do with that what you will. But you look at these 4 teams that we're talking about. I believe Akron was around plus 4,000 plus 4,500, something like that, before they got taken off the board. So you look at them, you look at Kent State, UMass, and Ball State, and you figure, all right, if you're looking at a win total, maybe see how many of those schools are on whatever team schedule that you're considering betting. Well, those other three teams are all on Akron schedule. So, and the only road game is Ball State. There's a non-conference home game against Duquesne. That's possibly 4 wins right off the bat. So if this team gets a little momentum going, I kind of lean over 4.5. I think they're gonna, their coach is a good coach. So I mean, he could certainly get them fired up. They could win 5 games this year. I'm not betting it, but the schedule's manageable. It's just that that mindset. I never know what to expect. So
yeah, and it's viable. I think that's a perfectly logical discussion. I think that the students, the players would be fired up, and I'm sure he is a good coach. So do I think they could overperform this year from what is expected? I do. My larger concern for Akron is, what does this do for recruiting? Right, you're looking forward and trying to bring players in, and if you can't correct this in the very near term, what does that do to your program? Right, I mean, because that could be a black knell of death for your program, and that's a big deal. So I think from going forward perspective, it's a bigger deal. On the field this year, it could be a positive thing, and maybe they can step up and play. Maybe they learn their lesson from this, and they really focus on academics some to correct the problem for next year. I don't know, but yeah, I think there's kind of tale of two cities here. I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays on both sides of that as we go forward. So put a pin on it. We'll talk about it in detail later, because I think there's a whole calculation, all this. We'll talk about this whole concept kind of in a larger scale later.
All right. Let's keep it moving. We're getting into the middle tier. I think we're getting into Central Michigan. Your neck of the woods there, Peter. What you thinking?
Yeah, a new head coach in the mix, formerly at Army, which I think fits Central. I mean, this is a team that is relatively close to where I live. Seen a bunch of times here. I think, the coach they're bringing in has been known for being innovative on the offensive side. And I think that's what this team needs a little bit of, is some innovation on the offensive side. And so I think that's a very good thing, right? It's been hit or miss with this team. And they've been interesting and a little exciting at times, and then just very flat other times. So it's been, kind of a very bipolar team on the offensive side. I'm interested to see what happens with this. So there could be something that happens here positive. I don't think this is a very positive year for them, but I do think they can move in the right direction. So I think this is something that could build. So we've talked in other conference previews of a team that I think has a coach in place that could do something positive, that will instill discipline, that, it could kind of, roll into something better in the future. I don't expect a ton out of them this year, but I'd like to see how they progress from game one to the end. And are we seeing improvement? Are we seeing discipline? Are we seeing kind of the offense perk a bit? So that's what interests me with them this year, not so much playing them on the betting side. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, you took basically half the things I had written down on my card here for them. You did mention the coaching staff and the things that they need to work on. There's a couple things on both sides of the ball. Again, this is a team that at least brings back a quarterback with some experience. Joe Labus, he did miss 6 games due to injury, but at least he's not somebody that's brand new to the system. Some of the offensive issues they've got to overcome. Their top 3 running backs were all seniors, so they all graduated. Well, I'm assuming so. I'm sure their APR is above 930, so I'm gonna guess that they all graduated. 2 of their top 3 wide receivers have transferred. Tim, I know you love some turnover ratio, -17 for the season. Third down offensively, they only hit at 35%. So there's a lot to work on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, from a points and yards standpoint, they're around the middle to the lower third statistically in the MAC, but they were tied for the fewest turnovers forced in the nation, along with Purdue. I mean, they had 5. They had 3 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions in 12 games. That is not going to equate to too many wins here. So they've got a posted win total 5.5. Juice to the under, that plus 2,000 to win the MAC. I don't want any part of that. They've got a lot to clean up. And like Pete, I'm curious to see if they improve, but not putting my hard-earned money on it, hoping for the best. There's just too many key things they need to work on both sides of the ball.
All right. Well, we did Central. How about Western? Or how about Eastern? We'll do Western later. Eastern Michigan. Yeesh. The win total is 4.5. Darren, we'll start with you this time. We're looking at Eastern Michigan. What you thinking?
Well, Noah Kim is going to be their quarterback. Dude couldn't beat out Ethan Vasco at Coastal Carolina. Didn't play a whole lot at Michigan State. Coastal, I see that he only had 56 pass attempts last year. Their leading rusher, who was actually pretty good, Delbert Mims, he's gone. They do get their leading wide receiver back and Terry Lockett Jr. But most everybody else in the wide receiving core is gone. Looks like I think 3 or 4 of the offensive line is returning, so that's certainly a positive. Defensively, most of the D line is gone or transferred. Their leading tackler is at Virginia Tech. Apparently, he's a big Metallica fan. Good for him. Secondary, only 4 interceptions. So again, another seems to be a middle of the pack team here. Schedule worries me a little. This 4.5, I'm leaning under here because we talked about those 4 teams that you want to see on your schedule. Kent State, not on it. Akron, not on it. UMass, not on it. Those are 3 potential wins they could be looking at there. They go to Buffalo, they go to Miami. They got Ball State, but then again, that's on the road as well. So I don't know if this team's going to hit 4.5. Again, no bet for me on it here, but a lean to the under here for these guys.
Pete?
Yeah, I think Eastern is an interesting program. They've been relatively consistent. They played well. I like the coaching. I think they're well prepared. I think they play above their talent level quite often, which is a good thing. So they surprise me quite often with the way they play. And by the way, I'm picking them as my surprise, but they do play they play consistently, which is good. Quarterback is going to be an issue. I agree. I thought they would bring somebody in to bolster it, and that didn't work out. So I think that's an issue. Defense has been good. Linebackers are good and still in place, but they lost most of their defensive line, which is going to be a bit of a challenge there. If they can plug and play there, they should be serviceable, which they generally are. I think the quarterback is my biggest step down here, meaning that I'm concerned about them because of the quarterback position. Maybe that'll turn into a positive. I do think their defense will play well. And I said they've been consistent. I like the coaching there, so I'm positive on them. Not that they're going to win this conference. I think they're 19-1 right now or something. I don't have the odds in front of me, but to win the conference is a pretty long shot. I don't like that, but I do think they'll be competitive every week. I do think they'll play generally well on defense. It's the offense that is my biggest question here. But to me, they're a consistent, not that fun, but a consistent team to watch. So those are my thoughts on Eastern.
All right. Well, we're doing another directional school. We're going to leave Michigan, and we're going to go to Illinois, Northern Illinois University. Guys, this is their last hurrah. They'll be leaving for, I believe, the Mountain West. The over-under on the win total is 6.5. Peter, what you thinking here?
Yeah, this has been traditionally, at least recently, a tough and physical team. That that's kind of their MO, and they do that well. So I really expect that to continue. I think the defense is going to continue to be good. Yes, they have to reload. They lost some good players, but this is something they've done quite well. So I do expect their defense to be good. And as we've talked about ad nauseum many times, a team that has a good defense, can stay in games. And so it just comes down to what the offense is going to do. I think it's going to be better. I think, you've got transfer quarterback coming in. I think there's some opportunities here, maybe to at least create some type of vertical game, which is something that's been lacking. So playing good defense, creating some type of vertical passing game, could make this team a little sleeper and a little dangerous. But we'll see how it plays itself out. And once again, I'm not betting on that because I'm not sure that's all going to come to fruition. But I do feel pretty confident their defense will play well. If the defense plays well, I think they'll be in most games. So if they can get something out of the offense that's been better than they had before, I do think there is some upside here. But it's a kind of wait and see situation from my perspective.
Darren, what'd you think?
I had like a mini rant going because we all know as a Notre Dame fan, Northern Illinois, not my favorite squad. I mean, I guess I could thank them because got Notre Dame to pull their head out of their ass, and they managed to get all the way to the national championship game. And if you guys remember last year, I think, Tim, you were in a hurricane or something, so Pete and I did the MAC show, just the two of us. I bet Northern Illinois to win the MAC last year, and after they beat Notre Dame on the road, I was like, well, hell, the MAC should be easy. They went 4-4. So you know what? Screw you, Northern Illinois. Yeah, I don't want any part of your plus or 12-1 or 15-1, whether you're on DraftKings or FanDuel. This team probably got gutted more than any team in the MAC. And like Pete said, defensively, they're always a sound team. Curious to see what they do this year. They lost 6 starters and a ton of their depth. If they can rebound and play similar defense, that 6.5 win total is attainable. DraftKings and FanDuel actually has the under juiced for both of those 6.5s. The schedule, they've got Ball State, Kent, and UMass on there, so that's certainly 3 wins right there. If Josh Holst ends up being the quarterback, replacing Ethan Hampton, I think that'll be a positive. I mean, he only played 6 games last year. He was the 4th leading rusher on the team. Had a decent bowl game last year. They beat somebody in like overtime. I can't remember who the hell it was, but I remember watching that game. But again, lots of losses on the offensive line. Top 3 receivers all transferred. Their top 2 running backs are gone. So this team's been gutted. 6.5 maybe a little high here. I certainly don't want any part of the 15 or 12-1 to win this conference. I just think there's just too many losses for them to overcome. But thanks guys for beating Notre Dame and giving me hope that my MAC bet would be an easy cash, and then sucking more ass than I've ever seen any team in my life. Appreciate that. So and good luck in the Mountain West. Boise State whoops your ass.
I don't think that'll be too much of a problem.
All right, I'm done now. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
we're supposed to be objective, but how do you beat Notre Dame on the road and then you go 4-4 in the MAC? You lost to Ball State. Come on.
This feels like Notre Dame. They got to pull their head out of their ass. That's not them. You don't lose Northern Illinois. Come on.
Back to Michigan. And now we got Western Michigan. Over under. The win total is 5.5. Back up in your neck of the woods, Peter. What are you thinking about the Central Michigan?
Yeah, so Western, I think I'm semi-optimistic for the program. Longer term, I'm not all that optimistic for the 2025 season here. I think, they have good linebackers and safeties coming back. I think that, the defensive line did lose some people. So if they can reload there, I think the defense will be, once again, pretty solid, right? We'll keep them in games. The lack of a quarterback, and I just don't know. I don't know what happens here from the quarterback perspective. The offense as a whole concerns me with Western. I think the defense will be serviceable. I think it needs work. I think 2025 is going to be a challenge for them. I think they're going to have quarterback issues, which is going to be, obviously a problem in this league. I think they have potentially a decent future in front of them, but not this year. So that's my perspective.
Darren.
Yeah, again, not super positive on this team here. 13-1 at FanDuel, 16-1 at DraftKings, way too low for me. They lost a lot, but I mean, there's a couple of players that are back at least. Their tight end, who was second in catches, first in receiving touchdowns, Blake Bosma, he returns. But they got their safety back, who was second in tackles, which is helpful, but they lost their leading tackler to the NFL, Donald Willis. And this was a team that was in the bottom quarter of the MAC statistically in a lot of defensive categories. They did hit the portal hard. They had a lot of offensive linemen and wide receivers that need to be replaced. Jaden Nixon, their leading running back, he's down in Central Florida now. That's 12 TDs and almost 1,000 yards that need to be replaced. Hayden Wolf, well, not the greatest statistical quarterback you'll ever see, but he had experience. He's gone. This team just started out 0-4 like right away with the non-conference schedule they've set up for themselves here. If you're looking at the over, DraftKings has got 4.5. DraftKings has 5.5. FanDuel's got 4.5. So shop around if you have a thought there. I'm kind of leaning under on this team as well. Again, just, not to sound like a broken record, just too many losses here to overcome.
Any final thoughts, Peter?
No, I mean, just I think you're hearing some of this, right? Which is this is a tough conference to look at. There's so many transfers, and trying to track where these quarterbacks are coming from, going to. Some of them seem to be making like double moves. I mean, it's hard to track where these quarterbacks are going, so it's tough for many of these schools. Where if you look at their defense, pretty good, running game maybe all right, but the quarterback situation is a complete question mark, and I don't even know how you figure out what they're going to do when you have no idea who's going to play quarterback for them. And so that's been a lot of the issue here, Rich. I think anybody looking at and trying to really look at these teams here is that's the biggest challenge that I've seen.
Right. We got one more team before we get to the nitty-gritty of the teams that realistically have a chance to win this conference. We're looking at Bowling Green. Over under on the wins is 6.5. I believe they have a new coach. Is that right, Darren?
Yes. The one thing I actually like about this school, Eddie George, baby.
Yes.
Head coach from, I believe, East Tennessee State he was before. And it looks like he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's a couple games over 500 in his coaching career. His last 3 years, he led that team from 4 wins to 6 wins to 9 wins. So, as much as I'm going to miss ripping Scott Loeffler, I mean, that was one of our boys.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to
be
trying to
jet
get the
sweep.
Yeah, going to try and teach the Philadelphia Eagles to run some jet sweeps as he's the QB coach. That should be fun. Jalen Hurts punching him in the throat the first time he tells him to run a jet sweep. But
fade the Eagles this year.
Yes. Well, he's not calling plays, thankfully.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still book your Eagles Super Bowl futures. You should be okay there. But outside of Eddie George coming in to be the coach, I see nothing about this team that I like. Drew Pine coming over to be the QB. He's been in like a million different schools, Notre Dame, Arizona State, Missouri. He's probably going to be the starter. They do have 4 offensive line starters returning, but all their skill players are gone. Terry and Stewart. Harold Fannin, no offense to Tyler Warren. I know he's on your Colts now, but Harold Fannin was the best tight end in college football last year. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. I'm sorry. He just was. The defense, not a single returning starter on the defensive side of the ball. This is a full-blown rebuild. This team is actually my disappointment for the upcoming season. Just look at this schedule. I don't know if you have the schedule, but if not, it's okay. I got the important parts here. Weeks 2 through 7, they go to Cincinnati. They play at home against Liberty. Liberty's always got a good team regardless. They go to Louisville. They go to Ohio. Then after a bye week, they host Toledo. Okay, so that could be 0-5 without any issues at all. I mean, all those teams look better than Bowling Green does at this point. Throwing a home game against Buffalo, they go to Eastern Michigan. I don't know how this team gets to 6.5. As soon as I saw this, I texted you guys. Yeah, I made this bet already. I got minus 115, under 6.5. Unfortunately, Eddie George can't play anymore. I mean, maybe he could. I don't know. I'm sure he's still a pretty well-built dude, but that defense, I don't know how they're going to – it's literally like a full-blown rebuild. They lost pretty much everybody. So, it's not like Drew Pine's been lighting it up everywhere he's gone. He's barely played at all the schools he's been to. So, Bowling Green, my disappointment. I've got a 1-unit bet under 6.5 for Bowling Green.
Outstanding. Peter, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say largely ditto. I mean, much of that is true. I think the Drew Pine thing is interesting. He's been around for a while in terms of somebody who's experienced person to have, to maybe settle the program a little bit on the offensive side. Not that he's played a ton, but he's been around since 2020. It's 2025. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, right? So, I mean, he could play this year or next year if he's any good. So could you get something out of him? I don't know. Will he be stabilizing? Maybe, but as you mentioned, with the lack of weapons to work with, that's going to be a problem. Love the coach. Think once again, this is a program that could definitely move in the right direction with Eddie, with that coach. who knows, right? But I think they're seriously lacking on the offensive side of the ball. Outside of Drew, who might do just fine, but who's he thrown to? I don't know what's happening there. So, yeah, I like Darren's bet here. I think the under's a very very high probability of occurring. So I really do like that bet quite a bit. But once again, I do like the future here, and I do like the Drew Pine edition just to create some stability there with somebody who's been around. So maybe just his influence in the locker room of just bringing that experience, I think will be helpful. But I just don't think they have enough weapons to really compete. So yeah, my 2 cents.
Okay. Well, let's keep it moving. We're going to go into probably the top tier of the MAC teams. Let's take a look at Buffalo. So here we go. We got their schedule up on the screen. Their over/under on their wins is 6.5. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one, Darren.
Well, I would have to send you guys money to justify my thoughts here because New York sucks. But I like Buffalo this year. I'm not gonna lie. One of you guys might be getting a Venmo payment to bet the over 6.5 here. Really, the only concern I have is at the quarterback position, and unfortunately, that's the wrong place to have it. Taquan Roberson, he was at Kansas State last year, but barely played. But before that, if you guys remember, he was supposed to be UConn's starting quarterback, and then like the second drive of the year, like torn ACL or something, and he basically has not played since. So his health is going to be obviously important to whether this team does anything. But here's something that's different from a lot of MAC teams. Their leading running back, who had over 1,000 yards, is back. Victor Snow, he led all receivers in catches, yards, and touchdowns. He's back. They have 3 offensive line starters returning. Offensively, if Roberson stays healthy, this could be one of the best offensive teams in the MAC. Defensively, I don't know if you guys know this, the top 2 tacklers in the NCAA both went to Buffalo.
Yes.
Did you have that on your bingo card? Of course not. One is gone, but the second guy, he's back. Red Murdoch. Just sounds like he should be making moonshine in Arkansas, but whatever. Apparently, he plays for Buffalo. A lot of their secondary returns as well. Their third leading tackler, Solomon Brown, is back. Schedule's not terrible. I believe they start the season non-conference at Minnesota. I kind of want to watch that game because I don't know if I'm really high on Minnesota this year. That would be kind of like Toledo going to Illinois a couple years ago, Tim. Remember, we gave out Toledo plus the points, and that turned out to be a pretty simple cash. They don't really have any bad road games. The last 2 games of the season, you can see there, Miami and Ohio, both at home. Those could certainly be determining who goes to play in Detroit for the MAC title game. I like this team. I'm not going to lie. I would bet over 6.5 if I decide to send you guys some money for that. But they're my surprise. I have them playing another team we've yet to talk about in the MAC title game. I love them. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls. Peter, what you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I love them even more because this is the team I picked to win the conference this year. I mean, I everything you said for this defense is good, and it's going to be good. So we know the fact that I love good defenses because it keep you in games. So I love it. Me picking them to be the winner here is kind of, I guess, going against my usual philosophy because one of the places that, for me, you got to have a good defense. They have that, but the quarterback question mark is a concern. Now, I think it will be answered, and I think it'll be fine, or else I wouldn't be picking them as the winner. But it is a concern. But the reason I went this direction because I think the quarterback will be at least serviceable plus, right? And that's what they need with that defense. Is that this schedule is the second easiest in the conference. I think with that defense, they're going to shut people down or keep people off the board. So the offense just needs to be good enough. And I think the offense will be at least good enough, if not better. So I do think they're in a very good position here to win this conference this year. I said I do love and lean on that defense. So I think there's a lot to like here. And I love that first game. Good call out on that first game. That'll be a lot of fun to watch and see.
I hope that's on TV. That should be interesting. And notice no Toledo on that schedule either.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean I think they're in position here for sure to do something if they can get anything out of that offense. So agree with everything Darren said. I think it's going to be a fun year for them, and I think that first game could be quite interesting.
Agreed. Let's move on. We got Miami. Whew. Over under on the win total is 6.5. This is one team I was going to put a bet in, possibly to win the conference, but I don't want to tie up too much of my bankroll in futures. And if you listen to the Big 12 episode, I kind of went nuts.
I was just going to say, you made 108 bets in the Big 12. I mean,
so I got to limit myself. I'm trying to limit myself to
bankroll left.
So that'll be in our upcoming bankroll management episode coming out shortly. But yeah, Darren, what you think about Miami? I did not bet this. I do have a bet, but not on the school. What you thinking here?
I think this team, it was between these guys and Bowling Green, honestly, as my disappointment. However, one of our favorite MAC quarterbacks of all time, DeQuan Finn, who led Toledo to a MAC title 2 years ago, then went to Baylor, got hurt, and lost his job to Sawyer Robertson, never played at snap for Baylor again, is now on Miami of Ohio. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but one of our MAC faves back in the MAC. That's nice. Positive. Other than that, there's not much coming back to this team from 2024. The entire offensive line gone. Top 3 wide receivers gone. That's over 2,200 yards, 150 catches at 19 touchdowns, by the way, that need to be replaced. Keon Mosey, almost 1,100 yards rushing, gone. Matt Salopek, another one of our favorite defenders from the MAC, gone. I just don't know who's going to replace all these guys. I couldn't find anything about how well they did in the portal. But again, this is almost Northern Illinois levels of gutting here. They do have a good quarterback, though, so I can see why this total is 6.5. It looks like 6-1 to win the conference. I don't want any part of that. But it does concern me that they're only 6-1 to win the conference, but their win total of 6.5 is juiced to the under. That just doesn't scream MAC winner to me. Another lean on the under here. I don't think DeQuan Finn is going to save them. He may win a game, maybe 2, because he is pretty much he's kind of dual threat. I like him, but too many losses both sides of the ball, and those numbers just don't make sense. How are you 6-1 to win the conference? You're your third betting choice to win the conference, but they don't even know if you're going to be a better than a 6-6 team. So I'm passing. If anything, I would fade these guys. I want nothing to do with them.
Possible fade. Peter, what you thinking?
Yeah, they are my disappointment. So just echoing a lot of what Darren just said, I think they were gutted, right? That's a concern. I mean, yeah, they did bring in a quarterback that I do like. So I think the quarterback's going to be, once again, serviceable plus. He's going to be fine. But no weapons. I worry about the trenches and how they differ greatly from what we just talked about a minute ago, is that they have the 4th most difficult schedule in this conference, which is not going to help them out. With being gutted like that, I think they're going to have some challenges, especially early in the year. So I don't see a very favorable year for them here, unfortunately, because once again, they were gutted. So I don't know where this goes, but as of right now, I just think they are going to disappoint this year. Which you're right. I mean, the way this is with the betting angles right now, conference winner, over under, it's a little weird, which makes me think there's something there. But yeah, I wouldn't touch them. I wouldn't even know what to do with them, but I don't think they're going to have a very successful 2025.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at that schedule, and I can't see the dates because I'm blind as all hell, but I'm assuming if that goes from left to right, Wisconsin and Rutgers on the road and UNLV at home, you could be looking at an 0-3 team before you even knew what happened. And then after, is that Lindenwood? Is that even a college? All right, cool. Good for them. I mean, the middle of the schedule lightens up, but then like Ohio, Toledo, and Buffalo, 3 of your last 4 games. I mean, ugh. I don't even know if the Ball State game at home is going to factor in anything for these guys. Like Pete said, just gutted. So a lot to overcome.
All right. Well, we're getting down to the final couple of teams here. Now we have the Ohio Bobcats, I believe. Whew. Over under on the win total is 7.5, getting a little bit higher there than the aforementioned Miami of Ohio team. Peter, what are you thinking? Another one of your teams from the favorite state of Ohio. What you got?
Well, I mean, they were good last year, so we'll give them that. I mean, it certainly puts a target on their back. I think that's going to be a bit of a problem for them. Certainly, losing their quarterback is an issue, and I think that will Once again, we've talked about quarterbacks how many times now in this conference of just where's the quarterback, who's it going to be, what are they going to do? We have no idea. That this is going to be a continuous theme with these conferences because of the fact that they're getting gutted, and whoever they have that's good is getting picked up someplace else. So it's an issue, right? And I think that's going to be an issue for them. I think being consistent as a MAC school or any of these Power Fives, when you're constantly dealing with churn and your roster, is going to be an issue. It's going to continue to be an issue, and I think this is going to be a glowing example this year of a team that is going to hurt because of that turnover in the roster. So I don't think they're going to be terrible by any means or anything of that nature, but I don't think they're going to win this conference. I think you're going to see better teams, including a few we've already talked about here. I have no play on them. I wouldn't even, once again, I don't know what to do with them. It's interesting. They're going to be good, but I don't think they're going to win the conference. So that's my 2.5 cents in this case.
All right.
I like Parker Navarro. I mean, that dude is a running machine. He ran for over 1,000 yards. You know, the TD to interception ratio could use a little bit of work. But the dude did have 18 rushing touchdowns. He had more rushing touchdowns than passing touchdowns. So as long as he stays healthy, they're going to have a fighting chance every game. They lost skill players to the NFL. I mean, that's how good this offense was last year. They were first in the MAC in points and yards. But again, you know, losing their top wide receiver, I believe, no, they got somebody in from Tulsa to be their running back, Ricky Hunt. So maybe that helps. But Anthony Tyus is in the NFL. Coleman Owen, he went to the NFL as well. You know, you're talking about almost 2,500 yards and 17 touchdowns between those guys, rushing and receiving. Defensively good, but again, gutted. I mean, sack leader gone. 6 or 7 of their defensive linemen gone. So that's starters and depth they need to replace. And while Parker Navarro is legit, possibly, I would say second best quarterback in this conference, because we're about to talk about the first one, I think. But again, you know, less than 3-1, depending on where you shop to win the conference. But again, juice to the under on your 7.5 posted win total. Yeah, I don't know, man. A good quarterback, but just again, so many. It's like Daquan Finn light. I mean, how are you going to overcome, you know, all these obstacles? I'm looking at that schedule that I again can barely read. I mean, at Rutgers, at Ohio State. It's like, I mean, West Virginia's lost a ton, but I can't doubt a Rich Rod team. I mean, these guys could be 0-3 before Gardner Webb comes to town, and then, you know, they go to Buffalo. They go to Eastern Michigan. I don't know if Parker can save this group. I mean, still should be good, but again, so many losses. And that number's too short for me to pick him to win. Less than 3-1. No thanks. I'm a pass here.
Yeah, Parker's and not an issue with Parker, but this is another team that, God forbid something happens to him at all, forget it. I mean, the wheels go off at that point.
100% correct.
Yep. Well, there's only one team left. That is the odds favorite here to win this conference. Over under is 8.5. I got a bet on this, Darren. What are you thinking first?
Yeah, they're my pick to win this as well, but it you know, plus 240 or plus 250. I didn't want to bet it at that low of a number. I love me some Tucker Gleason, though. I think he's the best quarterback in this conference, and I don't know if it's particularly close. One of their leading receivers returns. Let's see. Connor Walenzak. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. At running back, he's back. All 5 starters on the O-line return. And this team beat like a 6 overtime bowl game last year, I think. So, yeah, this team's certainly not scared of the big moment here. Defense was decent. They weren't hit that bad by the transfer portal or graduation as compared to some of these other teams we've looked at. Schedule, again, if you're looking at it there on the vid here, not terrible. I mean, if you look at that, I mean, what's the toughest road game? Maybe Miami of Ohio. I'm talking conference. I mean, going to Kentucky. Kentucky, you know, Kentucky not that great either. You know, I wouldn't see. You know, they went into Illinois, and Illinois hit some ridiculous 4th down play to win at home over Toledo. I'll see Toledo going in there and giving Kentucky a run for their money. Yeah, I think they're going to win this conference. I would play the over 8.5. I didn't, but I wouldn't argue with you if you did. That schedule looks more than manageable.
Well, that means you're not going to be arguing with me because I did.
Well, I mean, I can argue with you, but I like it. That's a good play.
So yeah,
I like that bet. I like it a lot.
I mean, obviously, I see the Kentucky game is you can chalk that up for a loss, and even with Washington
I'm not.
State,
I wouldn't chalk it up for a loss.
It might be. It could go either way.
That's going to be another fun one to watch. Buffalo at Minnesota and Toledo against Kentucky. I would gladly watch both of those with a bunch of unnutritious food and alcoholic beverages.
And they got the Michigan schools, all directionals. I could see easily 9 wins. That's higher than 8.5. So I think they'll get at least 9. I think they, again, at plus 200 or something like that for the conference. That's too low to do some hedge hunting, obviously. So, but I did not bet them to win the conference, but I have them over 8.5. Peter.
Yeah, to me, it was between them and Buffalo to win the conference here. Love me some Tucker. They have the easiest schedule in the conference, which will absolutely aid them. So love that over bet. I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. Heck, you could bet them to win the conference as well. It's just too short. I'm not sure it's worth doing that. So I think the over bet's a better bet here. But yeah, no, I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be, once again, aided by that, schedule, which I think is relatively easy in terms of this conference. So I think that's a positive thing. So for me, it was close. It was a bit of a coin flip between them and Buffalo. So I see them having a good year. I just went the other direction with who I think is going to win the conference. But I do believe that, yeah, I could absolutely see them winning 9 games. Would not be surprised at all. So yeah, I think it'll be a very positive year. And you mentioned the portal. This is one of those teams that seems a little odd to me. I want to do some more research. That seems to be doing pretty well in the portal in one of these smaller conferences. I don't know what they're doing.
I saw a few Big Ten schools players coming in. I saw a couple from Wisconsin, a couple from Purdue. Yeah. I think I saw one from West Virginia. I think I saw coming in. So yeah, I mean, players are going. They're probably second or third string, but I mean,
Yeah, they're drawing some talent and they're protecting their own to some degree, right? They're not losing as many through the portal, which I think is good. So I think this is one of those teams I think that over some years now has built a name for themselves. And I think that's positive. I think that's leading to what they're being able to do in this conference, which once again is interesting as we go forward. So yeah, I think it'll be a very positive year for them. I think they'll have a good year. And I think it'll be an interesting battle between them and Buffalo to win this conference. And I look forward to seeing that play out.
And if you want an early week 1 line, Toledo's getting 11.5 against Kentucky. Just throwing that out there.
That is interesting.
I know, right?
quick
too much.
Quick hypothetical, guys. Let's assume they run the table. They beat Kentucky, Washington State, Western Kentucky, 12-0, win the MAC. What are any chance of them representing the group of 5?
They're 12-0, sure.
Of course.
Well, I mean, if
they're 12-0, they're going to be ranked. They're going to have to win the MAC title game to be. Yeah, I mean, if you're 13-0, you have to at least be ranked. So if you're a MAC champion and you're ranked, you've got a shot.
Yeah, they'll be in the discussion, right? It just depends who else does what, right? So it comes down to that, right? But I think that you can't not be in the discussion at that level. They're going to if they're that. Right, then they're going to be impressive. Their defense is going to be good. It's certainly worthy consideration there. So I'd like to see that happen. I'd like to see how they get respected or disrespected at that point in that position. But certainly they'd have to be in the consideration.
And that's a good question to bring up, Tim, since we just started our group of 5 stuff. That's certainly something we can address our next 4 shows when we hit the other 4 conferences, like who could conceivably represent the conference, and that's an excellent point. If Toledo's 13-0, I mean, how do you not? I mean, you would have a win on the road against an SEC school to hang your hat on. They don't really have any other, resume builders. But yeah, if you win that game and come out of it healthy, yeah, I mean that could be an undefeated season. I mean, that at Miami game would probably be the biggest thing to look at after that. But
yeah, it might get fun little show to do after we do all the group of fives. A little short thing is just to talk about, okay, now that we covered all these, who do we think is actually going to be in play for the playoff, right? Because I think that could be a really Toledo certainly should be part of that discussion, because I think it's certainly viable there.
All right, well, let's put a bow on this episode. Let's go to our MAC grid here. Darren, you want to start us off? What you got?
Yeah, I've got Toledo winning. My surprise team, Buffalo, will be their opponent in the MAC title game. So that's what I'm thinking there. And again, Bowling Green, one of the most gutted teams here. Although I like Eddie George, he's not suiting up anytime soon. And I think they're going to fall below that 6.5. So my only bet here, Bowling Green under 6.5 at -115.
All right. I also have Toledo as a 2025 champion. My surprise team is Kent State. I think they're gonna win 3 games this year, and that'll be as shocking as anyone. They got UMass, they got Merrimack. They're gonna upset Bowling Green. That'll be their 3rd win.
I'd be fine with that.
So that's as big as a surprise as anybody else. So am I disappointing as Northern Illinois on the way out? I just think maybe they get everyone's best game. Want to give them a little parting gift as they head out the door.
Excellent point, man. They're gutted and they're leaving.
And
does not bode well.
I did bet the over for Toledo 8.5 wins. And Peter, wrap it up.
All right. Well, I don't have a bet, although I considered a few. So I've got Buffalo winning the conference this year. I said it was really kind of a coin flip with me between Toledo and Buffalo. You can see how it's playing out here. I think we've got the 2 best teams here that are going to play it out. Eastern, as I mentioned, surprise to me. I mean, they're a team that's consistent and plays well. I like the coaching. So I could see them, they're a team that, because they're consistent enough, things roll their way. They could be surprising. And I think they could indeed be surprising here. Disappointing. We just talked about Miami and the fact that they're just gutted. So it's really hard for me to look at them as anything but having some issues this year because of that. So yeah, those are my positions here.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Hey, look at that. Less than an hour and a half. It helps when you have a normal size conference, doesn't it? You don't have 18 teams to do. We can actually get this done in about an hour. My goodness.
And if you watched all this, thank you.
Yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Again, please like and subscribe to our channels here on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. You can email us at cfbdudes@yahoo.com. This has been the MAC preview of Targeting Winners. Thank you all very much for listening, and we will see you next time.